got ripped on. It's Jedi juice. Crazy, bro. Like, I just bought honestly, like, things like where?
I want to tell you guys, how many of you came to the similar version of this for medicine in the fall? Anybody come when we had professional speakers from the medical field? Okay. So here we are in the spring, we're doing another one. So what I'm trying to do is show you guys a connection between industries. Maybe you knew in the fall that you're interested in medicine, but you didn't know what that would look like. And perhaps maybe you saw a respiratory therapist talking and you're like, I want to do that. And then you heard from our speaker back in the fall how to go about getting to that point. And then had a chance to speak with her later in the morning. So we're going to do a similar thing today. Our economy, how many of you drive? How many of you pay for your own gas? Okay, what has happened in the last few weeks with gas? Yeah, it's gone way, way up. Okay, now let me ask you this. How many of you have bought something plastic in the last 2 weeks? How many of you realize you paid more for that than you would have 6 weeks ago? You know why? Yeah, but what's the bigger cost? What's plastic? Where does plastic start as? Oil. So right there, I'm paying more for gas. How in the world should that affect the price of my scientific calculator that I go to Walmart and buy? Because that case is made of plastic. So our economy is a web that is connected. It's not like just one thing causes one thing. Okay, it's like playing pickup sticks. Well, y'all have phones now, so you don't play pickup sticks. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at a small business that started here in Jonesboro and now has a much larger footprint than they once did. And then we're going to let that business explain about what it was like to grow, what they were looking for when it's time to grow. And each of these professions, as they come up, is going to tell you what it takes to get into their profession, what the job market looks like in their profession, and how they would specifically perhaps support that small business as they begin to grow. So save time, I'm only going to introduce the first speaker, and I would just ask you each to introduce yourself as you come up. Okay? So, guys, can we just all make a professional agreement that we will not be on our phones during this presentation? Raise your hand if you agree to that. Ooh. Okay. Got some.
That should be all hands.
All right, I appreciate your honesty, but that's not going to get it done. So let's stay off of our phones. Okay? So our first speaker, as you can see here, is Amanda Herget with Gearhead Outfitters. Gearhead Outfitters started here in Jonesboro, and they have grown tremendously, and she is going to talk to us about their journey. Thank you.
Hey everyone, good morning. My name is Amanda Herget. My husband Ted and I own Gearhead Outfitters. We are both born and raised here in Jonesboro. We went to Jonesboro High School and Arkansas State University. So, my husband started Gearhead Outfitters in 1997. He lived in Colorado for a while. After he started Arkansas State University as a freshman, his mom passed away at 18. And he just couldn't finish school. He just took a break. He moved to Colorado and just wanted to work in ski shops and go skiing and just kind of get Jonesboro out of his head for a little bit. So while he was there, he was collecting gear, which is called a gearhead. He wanted to come back to Arkansas eventually, finish his degree at Arkansas State, and bring the mountain lifestyle to Jonesboro. He finished his degree at Arkansas State in accounting, and he actually was offered a job with a firm in Little Rock, and they gave him an opportunity. They said, you can start now, or if you want to start in 6 months, you can do that. And he said, yeah, I think I want to start in 6 months. So while he did that, he decided that he would open a little store. He had $1,000 saved up, and he started selling and renting used bicycles and equipment. He did that for a while, and then he moved into a 400 square foot building on Flint Street, which is down from the pre-K. And that is where he first started. He was there until 2001. After the store would close, because he didn't have a whole lot of money at the time, he would clean pools in the summers, mowed yards, and he would DJ at nights just to have extra spending money. So in December of 2001, I went into Gearhead for the first time and met Ted. Even though we're both born and raised here, went to school here, we're several years apart, so we had never met each other. So that is where I met my husband. I had graduated from Arkansas State with an education degree. So I was teaching school. I taught at Hillcrest, which is now VPA, and I was teaching 5th grade. So while we dated, Ted decided to take a major risk and move his business from this small location on Flint Street to downtown Jonesboro. And you all probably won't know this, but downtown Jonesboro used to be a ghost town. There was nothing there. It was boarded up. There were no businesses, maybe one, but there were no restaurants like it is today. So everyone thought he was pretty crazy to do this. But he really wanted to be a part of revitalizing downtown Jonesboro. And it was really inexpensive at the time, so he could afford it. So we agreed that when we married in 2003, we would live above the store to save money. And we did that for 10 years, and we shared a vehicle. So we had one car, we lived above the store. I was teaching school, he would drop me off at school, and then he would go to work at Gearhead. And I would come in after school and work, and I would work on the weekends. But then after our son was born, he's now 17, he's a junior here at JHS. So for 17 years, I've been working at Gearhead myself. I decided to leave teaching because Ted needed help in the business and he didn't have any women working there. So I started as a female buyer, buying product for the store and working on the floor with him. And I still do that today. I still work on the floor. I work in our marketing department. I've pretty much done every job that there is, from cleaning the toilets to working in just about everywhere. My favorite part is working on the floor though with the customers. I love it. So over the years, we have grown. We now have 17 stores. We have stores all over Arkansas, Louisiana, Missouri, Oklahoma, Illinois, and Tennessee. And it has definitely been a team effort. When I started 17 years ago working with Ted, it was just Ted and I and one other guy that worked in the bike shop. And now we have 166 employees. And I'm proud to say that half of our administrative staff are women, and we have 16 managers that are women out of 17 stores. So that's pretty cool. Ted is a smart man. He always says women should run the world, which, sorry guys, but there's some truth to that. So contrary to what most people think, we believe that retail is not dead. I know that online shopping is huge, but we believe that people still want face-to-face interaction. They want to know where their money is going. They want to be a part of a story. And you all probably know that shopping local is so important because your money stays in your community. Even shopping at Walmart, which is a huge corporation and all over the world, if you're shopping in Jonesboro, that money stays here because the business pays taxes. And that money pays for your teachers' salaries, it pays for your fire department, your police department, your roads, all the things here. So even though online shopping is so easy, it's so convenient, just remember that when you're shopping that you're still helping build your community every time you go into a small business or even businesses like Walmart. So as we've grown, Ted has always had this motto, people, place, and product. Those are the three things that we think about every time that we open a store. So the first thing is people. Who are we surrounding ourselves with? Who's in the community? We want to be around cool people. We want to be around people that stretch us and make us better. We want to have a really cool workplace that's fun. And so one thing that we've adopted in our company is hire the smile and train the skill. It's something that I borrowed. I actually read it in a book about Nordstrom, which is a huge retail chain. But, you know, no matter what your degree is, if you have a bad attitude, I don't want that. I want someone that's coachable, someone that's positive, someone that's excited to come to work every day. And so that's really been a motto that we've continued with over the years as we've grown. So the next thing is place. We want to be in a fun atmosphere. We love college towns because we want young and vibrant people that are excited to be there and giving back to their community. We make a point to give back everywhere we are through volunteering, through donations, through scholarships. We have a scholarship that we endowed at Arkansas State University. So as a small business, and it took us years to be able to do this, but it's really important for us to give back because without the customers and the people in Jonesboro, we would be nowhere. And we know that. A lot of businesses, they have like a pyramid with their hierarchy. You've got your owners and then your employees. We do something that's called an inverted pyramid. So at the top of our pyramid is our customer. Next is our sales associates, then our managers, then our admin team, and then Ted and I at the bottom. And the reason we do that is because Ted and I are not writing the checks. The money is coming from those customers. And so they're our number one focus. So we try to tell our managers, our sales associates, everything is about that person walking through the door. And if you're not taking care of them, then they're not taking care of you. And so if you want your paycheck, you take care of that person that's right in front of you. Don't worry about what Ted and I are doing. It's what that person that's in there is doing. So the last thing is product. Nothing we sell at Gearhead is a need. I mean, everything is a want. It's an extra. I mean, we sell North Face clothing, we sell shoes, we sell bicycles. It's all fun products, but nothing is a need. But we do try to partner with companies that tell stories. Patagonia, They give 1% back to the planet with every purchase that you make. So that's important to us, is to try and align ourselves with these really cool products that also give back to the environment, or give back to the homeless, or give back to just other organizations. And so we really look at that when we're buying products for our store. We do focus on foot health in our stores, and what that means is just teaching our customers the importance of your foundation, which is your feet. So yes, we're selling tennis shoes, but we're also trying to educate you on taking care of yourself. And we sell a lot of shoes to nurses, doctors, people that are in the postal service, UPS, all kinds of businessmen and women, and we offer 20% healthcare discount. We started that during COVID. So anybody that was in that first line, the doctors, the paramedics, we offered that discount to them just as a thank you. So as we've grown, we encourage our team, which is our sales associates, managers, to learn their strengths. So we do this book, which I highly recommend that you do it before you go into the career that you're looking at. It's called Now Discover Your Strengths. I think there's a second version out there called Strengths Finder. And you can find it anywhere. I hate to say you can probably find it on Amazon, which is online, but we don't have a bookstore anymore. But if we did, buy it locally. But inside that book, there's a test, and you can take this test, and it'll put you into these categories. There's 34 themes, and it gives you your top 5 strengths. So I mentioned that I'm an educator. I have an education degree. My strengths sound a little bit like Mr. Rogers. Mine were empathy, harmony, positivity, relator. Doesn't really sound like your traditional entrepreneur. My husband's strengths are significance, achiever, ideation, influencer. So his are more like strategic thinking skills. But it takes all kinds of personalities to run a business. I really help more with our human resources, our employees, our customers. So that's where my relationship skills come in, where he is more the numbers guy. He has that accounting background. So he's able to make sure that we're making payroll, and I'm making sure that our people are being taken care of. It takes a lot of different personalities, for sure. So a couple more things, and then I'm done, and we'll move on to the next group. But when we hire our employees, we look at 5 characteristics of a total performer. So we're wanting our employees to put others' needs first, be a team player, initiate and complete tasks, self-educate, and supportive of leadership. So those are 5 really important things that we look for and that we encourage our staff to do on a daily basis. So for you guys, my advice moving into your career path is 1, know your strengths, figure that out, and also know the strengths of other people around you, who you're living with, who you work with, because that will help you communicate better when you know what makes people tick. Find a good product that you believe in. If a business is something you're interested in, don't just say, oh, I think I'm going to open a clothing store. You need to put more research into that and find out what your customers are looking for, what's something that's not here. I mean, there was not a mountain lifestyle store in Jonesboro. Obviously, we don't have mountains here. So there was a need for that. But just think about that. And then work in a place that brings you joy. Life is way too short to work in somewhere that you just don't want to be there. So those are some of the things that I encourage you. And always just take time for yourself every day and just be the best person that you can be. That's it.
Morning. I'm Gabe Roberts with First Community Bank. I'm a Vice President Loan Officer, and
seems like yesterday I was sitting right out there just like y'all. Actually, the PAC wasn't here, but we had a, auditorium. But anyways, I graduated from Jonesboro High School in 2010, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I enrolled at Arkansas State, did not declare a major, and after I set a deadline in my mind. After my first year, I need to figure something out. So I was on a trip, and I realized I wanted to get into banking. I always loved numbers. I like people. I don't mind talking to people. And I had trouble finding a job in banking during my freshman year, so I broadened my scope. I didn't just look in Jonesboro. I looked at Paragould, Brooklyn, anywhere kind of locally that I could drive to each day. So the first job opportunity I got was in Paragould. So every day after class, I would get in the car, drive it to Paragould until there was a more approachable job for me in Jonesboro. So I did what it took to get a foot in the door. I knew you don't start at the job you want, you have to work your way there, okay? So I started as a teller. I worked every Saturday. I worked Monday through Friday, whatever hours I could do. And then whenever a job came open in Jonesboro, I knew I would move in. So I did that for my first year. And then I worked in Jonesboro, fortunately. And then my junior year, I applied for an internship in the loan department. I knew I wanted to get there, so I needed to get exposed to the loan side, not just the teller side. So I did that, and I caught a break, like many of us do, and we had 2 lenders leave unexpectedly for a new position. So I got exposed years in advance of where I would have been if that would not have happened. So I always talk about how sometimes the unexpected things really benefit us long term, whether we know it or not. And then after that, I was told once I graduate, they would have me a loan officer position in the bank, and I worked there at that bank for another 2 years, and now I've been at University for 6 years. And something about, y'all might not know what a loan officer does, but what we do is we work directly with small businesses like Deerhead, individuals that are looking to buy a car or anything like that. So whether you're an individual or you're a business owner, you always need to have your banker, okay? You might not think about today, but buying a car, but tomorrow you might need to buy a car. You might be looking to buy a house, you might have an unexpected emergency. It's that kind of relationship you need to have with somebody, so when you need that loan, you have access to it, okay? So the education requirements for bankers, well, it varies. So my neighbor at the bank, he's our chief deposit officer over the whole entire bank. I work at a bank that our assets are over $2 billion. And Brian, he didn't even graduate college. Okay, he worked his way up as a teller. He's proven himself through projects he's done that even with his high school diploma, he's still able to grow throughout our company. I graduated college with a finance banking degree, which helped me open some doors as well. But just because you have that degree doesn't grant you access to automatically grow within a company. Every year we also have yearly testing we have to do to stay in compliance with what to do if this happens, what to do if a robbery happens, all that type of education we have to do every year. And this past year I graduated from a 3-year graduate school banking program in Memphis. So that's the extended board education that I have had. Now, as far as Jonesboro, Craighead County, I ran some numbers last night, and there's 11 banks from this corner to Wendy's. Okay, that's 11 different banks. That's 11 different opportunities for you to get a job in banking. There's 22 different banks in Craighead County with 50 branches. That's opportunity, okay? And that's also opportunity for a small business owner to build a relationship, to get a loan, to build their deposits as well. And this is another interesting number. There's over $2 billion in deposits in Craighead County itself. $2 billion. That's local money that's being invested in y'all, okay? That's jobs, that's innovation. So, one thing that I learned in school that's really stuck with me is we call it the 5 C's of credit. Okay, credit is, think about loans when you think about the word credit. And the 5 C's are capital, character, collateral, conditions, and capacity, okay? So when you're looking to start a business, you need to think about all 5 of these, just like Ted Maynard did. Capital, Ted started off with $1,000, okay? That's an impressive journey he's taken. He had $1,000 of capital when he started. So capital is your access to cash. So if something goes wrong, you need to have that capital there to help pay your employees, to pay for the water leak. Your character. Well, Ted and Maynard have proven their character. Ted cleaned pools, okay? He built relationships. He always followed through with what he said he's going to do. Okay, that's character. That's something you build over time. That's about the relationship that you get with your banker, with your employees, okay? They need to be able to trust you, first and foremost. Character, to me, is one of the most important 5 C's of credit. Okay? Collateral. So when the bank looks at collateral on a loan as in like, what are they offering to pledge? Whether it's real estate, whether it's a car, whether it's inventory. It's one of those things, and the conditions. So Ted went to Colorado, and he knew he couldn't put ski slopes in Jonesboro. Okay, we have rice fields. We don't have mountains. So he thought of biking. He thought of all those conditions. There was an opportunity there for Jonesboro that wasn't untapped. Okay, think of there needs to be competition to a level, or there needs to be an interest. Think of conditions when it comes to that. And then capacity. Capacity is your ability to repay the debt. Okay, if you're making $1 million or $1,000, you need to make sure you don't have more payments than you can afford. So you need to keep that debt low. You don't need to go out. Whenever y'all walk out these doors, that you'll get mailers from every credit card company in the world. Okay? I'll say, you're approved for $5,000. Do you need to go max that card out for $5,000? Yes or no? No. Do you know why? Compound interest. That $5,000 is going to turn into $10,000 that you're going to pay back. It's going to turn to $15,000. Then you're in a hole you're never going to climb out of, okay? Then your credit's ruined. So if you go to college, if you don't, you'll see Capital 110. Come sign up for a card and get a free t-shirt. Think real hard about that before you do, okay? So if anything sticks with y'all today, from what I've said, the banking industry in Jonesboro is strong. If you want a job in it, you will have opportunities. You will have to start at the teller line most likely, and you can grow from there if you want, as well as think long and hard about those 5 C's of credit whenever you're looking to start your business. The capital, the character, collateral, conditions, and capacity. All right? Thank y'all.
Hi, my name is John Mixon, and I am an architect. Today, I think I'll say that I am representing architects and engineers. Just to sort of broaden who I'm representing here. As an architect, we are the manager of engineers and architects on projects as project managers. So we're a service industry serving clients like small business owners. I joked with Kurt Hawkins, who you'll talk about earlier. I'm like, why is an architect coming to a small business owner? Because small business usually have small capital, and architects are sort of a next level up potentially when your business is growing. So maybe you're going into the next level. However, there are a lot of decisions that I know Ted and Amanda made, especially at the downtown building, about whether to take a wall out for the downtown building, or whether to put up that front porch that's actually holding up the front of that building. That front of the building would be on Main Street if that structural front wasn't on it. So all of those had to do with architecture and engineering. So architecture and engineering is the built environment. So we're sitting inside a piece of architecture. You're spending about 75%, 80% of your day in architecture. And what we do is we figure out what the need is of the space. So here it's a performance space, it's a lecture hall, it's a place to learn, and what does that mean, and how does the architecture relate to that? There's a whole lot of rules and codes and things that we become expert in over time, but we don't really learn that until we're doing it. Nobody learns anything that they're doing out here before they do it. And I think that that's a really big thing to understand, because now I'll get over to what Dan was also asking, Mr. Mullins was also asking for, was the path to the career. I'm someone that, I graduated Jonesboro High, class of '94, and my partner, Tim Cooper, who we started our small business. We're small business owners. We started 4 years ago, and he graduated here as well. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I actually thought that I wanted to be an actor. I went to New York. I then thought I might want to be a school teacher, and I went and became a school teacher. Then I pivoted and I went into architecture. But the one thing in all of that was that I just had confidence in myself. So when I got into the profession, and I worked for a large firm of 100 people in Philadelphia, I worked for a large firm of 100 people here in Arkansas. When I would have a question and I went and asked somebody, over half of the time, the person I asked didn't know the answer. And they may have been in the career for 30, 40 years. So you had to understand, like, they don't have the answers either. You're going to figure it out as you go. It doesn't matter what you go into school for. It doesn't matter which of these roles that you're going to play in society. You're going to have to figure it out as you go. So that's how I got to where I am. That's how I became an architect, was really just sort of figuring out life as it happened to me. So, you know, when I finally, when I met my wife and we decided, you know, what are we going to do? We did this together. We went back to school together. And I got my degree in architecture. She got her degree as a master in sculpture at the University of Tennessee, which has a common market. Here's something else to remember. There's a common market of schools. If there's a degree in Arkansas that is not provided in Arkansas, you can go look in the common market and pay in-state tuition to other schools in the common market. So I paid in-state to go to the University of Tennessee because the University of Tennessee Arkansas did not have a master's in architecture. So architecture, you can get a master's or a bachelor's, it's the same thing. It takes a little bit longer to get the master's, so you pay a little bit more money. But since I was going back to school, it made sense, and the in-state tuition made a lot of sense. So anyway, that's a little path for that. Architecture, engineering, there's a lot of math to get into the hurdle to get there, but to be honest, it's just a hurdle. So once you're in the profession, the majority of the roles in the profession do not require the math, and so, you know, don't let that be your hurdle. Take the math that you need to take to keep your options open, and then you'll figure it out as you go. So how we are involved in the small business path. When somebody comes to us, we don't know who they are or their needs. And that's one of the things I love about architecture and engineering, is that we serve the whole humanity of, you know, all the different issues, whether it's a place to live, it's a place to work, it's a place, all of those things require architecture. We don't know about those things. The expert is the person we're serving. So it's kind of like that upside down pyramid that Amanda was talking about. Really, the customer is the person that brings the requirements to us, and we have to listen and figure out, okay, what are they saying they need? And then we use our skill and turn it back around and say, okay, this is how we solve that problem. But they're bringing all the information to us. And so you have to listen, and your life experiences that you've had, the more life experience you've had, the better you're going to be at solving those problems. So in your day-to-day, think about those things you're thinking about. Why is that like that? You know, you look up, what are those white things up there? What do they do? Keep asking all those questions in your head, and when you get those answers, that's going to make it to where you can help solve problems in the future. So just to bring it all back around, as a small business owner, I'll speak to the importance of banking. 4 years ago, we started our business. We have employees. How are we going to pay them when people haven't paid us yet? So this whole thing about having money coming in, because you're doing your job, and having money that goes out, and those two things lining up with each other is a huge deal. And it's the only reason you can have a business. And I thank my banker, I thank you, the banking industry, basically for having what's called a line of credit. And so you keep yourself in good credit. Don't get that credit card so you can't pay off your debt. Have good credit. So then when you want to take a risk, like we took 4 years ago, you can actually get a line of credit. You know the money's coming in, but they're not going to pay you for 30 days. But you got to pay your employee in 2 weeks. So those two things don't line up, and you got to have this little bucket of money over here that somebody trusts you to pay back. And you say, okay, and your money goes here, and then you pay them back. And then you pay them back, and you want to pay them back immediately because of the compounding interest thing. But anyway, as an architect, I guess my first advice to you would be, don't go out and build a new building. So don't hire us to build a new building right off the bat. Do like Ted and Amanda. My one claim to fame is that I live across the street from the first gearhead. So, you know, I remember when the store was there, I visited the store. It is a great rocket of trajectory for a business, and what they do in the community is amazing. But if you can take nothing away from what I said today, is have confidence in yourself to figure out the world, and then negotiate your first salary really, really well. So, thanks.
Good morning. My name is Brock Klein. I am with Nabholz Construction.
I'm Justin Schraber. I'm a project manager at Nabholz.
So we, I guess in the beginning, let's talk a little bit about the construction industry itself and how you get into the construction industry. And like Gabe mentioned, there's very unlimited ways to make that happen. With a construction company, you can start working at 18 years old, straight out of high school. You're going to start at, you know, the bottom, but if you work hard, show up, pay attention, the sky's the limit. You can work towards a job in the field, so you're out there building buildings. You're building a building like this, you're building a house, you're managing that job. The new tower at St. Bernard's, everybody's probably driven by that a million times now. We opened it a couple years ago. That was a Nabholz project, and people within our company are so proud, even I'm proud. I had nothing to do with actually building the building, but when I drive over there and look at it, I think how proud I am that I was a very small part of that. And the person that's sweeping the floor is just as important to that building right there as the person that's managing the project, that's paying the bills, that's designing the building. There's no single person that's less important. So don't think that, hey, I don't want to go to college, it's not my thing. I just love to work, I love to be outside, I love to do things with my hands. The construction industry is perfect for that. You can go in, you can meet great people, and as Amanda said, you've got a good attitude. We'll teach you what you need to know. And I think that's really important to know that. Attitude is everything. Show up when you're supposed to, work hard, always go that extra mile. Be the person that they say, hey, they'll take care of it. Let's get them over here. Because that's what's important. Be that go-to person. And the sky's the limit at that point. So that would be, I'll let Justin speak a little bit about the industry from a going to college standpoint and working through that system. But from a person that is not interested in college, you don't have to have a college degree to be very, very successful in the construction industry. You just have to have a great attitude and a great work ethic.
And to add on to what Brock's saying, if college is the path you're looking for, show up, work hard, be on time, have that good attitude. You could be the next CEO. We've got guys that have worked through to those positions. It's a matter of how far you want to go. You just push yourself and work toward that. College is the path I took. I didn't get my degree in construction. I actually got my degree in technology management here at ASU. Being outside working with my hands. End of the day, most of it's relationships, dealing with people and listening, being able to communicate. Phones are great for a tool, but sending that email or text doesn't get it done a lot of times. Pick up the phone, call somebody, or have that face-to-face meeting. Build those relationships like we're talking about. John and I have worked together a lot through the years. We want to be that other set of ears with the owner. He may pick up on something I didn't, and vice versa. So working together and being that support team and build a relationship. Working through what's that owner's need? How do we get there? Working through budgets from day one. Hey, this is what we want, but we really can't afford this. What are other options to get there? John's smiling. We do that every day. It comes down to a lot of numbers, but you're going to figure it out when you get there. I go ask guys every day something. They may not know it. We're going to navigate and figure it out. And vice versa. It may not be something they've seen or an aspect. Work ethic and show up on time. That's the key to everything, really. Success.
So from a how we would help a small business standpoint, and I think it's really important we follow the path from the visionary that sees the opportunity there. Now we've grown and we went to the bank and we've kept our credit good, and we know that we have that support system financially that we can go out and make that investment. Now we go and we get the design team on board, the architects, the engineers, and we're going to build a building out on Southwest Drive. And it's really important that you have a good knowledge of what that is going to cost, because here's two terrible things that can happen. You go to the bank, you say, hey, I need $1 million. And they're like, okay, here you go. Here's $1 million. You think that's all the money in the world. I could go to the moon for $1 million, right? But then when you get your design, we all have heard about high gas prices, right? Supply chain issues. All of that affects your construction cost. So we have the historical background. We know what things are costing right now. We know that a year ago, to order a metal building, a pre-engineered metal building, it would be what? How many weeks to get it in? 8 to 12 weeks. Now you're looking at 8 months. So all those things you have to plan ahead. And that's where, maybe you're not out there you know, painting the walls, but you're in the office and you're working on those things. You're planning ahead. You're making sure that when you ask for that $1 million, that's enough money to get you what you need. It's also enough time, because that payment's going to be due pretty soon, and if your building isn't built because of supply chain issues, you're not going to be in there making money, and you're not going to be generating that income. What was that little dance you did a second ago, John? The money in and the money out. That can be a real problem. So a construction company like Naples, that's what we do. We do a system called pre-construction. All that happens before you ever stick a shovel in the ground. And we plan all those things out. You plan your supply chain. You know when things are going to get delivered. You know how much things are going to cost. You know when you go to the bank and ask for that $1 million, that's a good number. And you're going to be able to make those payments, and you're going to be able to have that building built in 18 months. It's not going to be 24 because you just thought, oh, big deal, we'll have it done. That's not the way things work. So Justin does a lot of that. I'll let him talk a little bit more, but it's really important to do that pre-construction planning. It's all about planning. Then when you actually get ready to go, you move on, and you're ready to start getting that project put together and making sure that you're bringing that income in, because that's what it's all about, right?
So like she was talking about on the pre-planning piece of what we do, there's as much work on the front end time-wise as there may be in the building, maybe longer. It may take longer to get to that point than even to finish the structure once we started. The outlook on employees and workforce, we're struggling for folks. It's a known fact. Most people don't want to go out and work in the field and get their hands dirty. So that's a path. You know, if you like to be outside, it's a very enjoyable, rewarding career. You know, you get to start with something from dirt, and you're in a building at the end of the day, or whatever line you go into, or that specialized piece. Don't look at it as oh, I can do that if something else doesn't work out. Maybe if it's something you're interested in, pursue it.
From a construction standpoint, once we actually start the project, you're working with your business owners. You know, it's not surprising that they'll walk in and say, oh, you know, I think we need to change something. I think this should be over here. So flexibility is another thing that you can carry on through your career, and really that's wherever and whomever you're working for, be flexible. But you also have to be knowledgeable enough to say, hey, Amanda, we absolutely can turn that over here. That's going to cost this much money and this much time. Are you willing to pay for that? And they either are or they aren't. What you don't want to do is say, okay, yeah, we'll change it. And then a month later we give them a bill, and then all of a sudden they're like, what do you mean? This is $50,000? I don't have that kind of money. So from your standpoint is to be flexible. From a business owner standpoint is to be knowledgeable enough about those changes you're making, and don't be so wishy-washy that you can't make your mind up. Be decisive and know what those decisions are going to cost, whether it's time, money, employees, inventory, whatever. So, good? Okay, thank you.
How y'all doing? Good. I'm gonna take this off, if that's okay. So my name is Dustin White with Dustin White. See? Y'all hear me? I feel like let me just put this down. Can y'all hear me if I talk? Yes. All right. Great. So I got into real estate. I've been in real estate business for 7 years, 6.5 years. And so I'll tell you the path that I took to get there. 7 years ago, I actually taught here at Jonesboro High School. I was a math teacher, and I coached the girls' soccer team. So at the time, I was newly married. so, being a teacher, you may or may not know this, but teachers make very little money compared to other opportunities that they could take advantage of. So I'm sitting there, my wife's not working, I got a baby on the way, and I can very vividly remember on a Tuesday night, my wife telling me we have $11 in the bank account to last us until payday, right? So I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe this teaching thing is not going to be for me. I got a baby on the way, and I want to be able to provide more for my family than I was at the time. So that was a Tuesday night. On Saturday of the same week, we hear a commotion in our backyard. I look out the back window, and the SWAT team is in our backyard doing a drug bust. And then on Sunday, I signed up for real estate school. And so, if you don't know anything about real estate, it is a commission-only business. That means you only make money if you sell something. You can go to work 40 hours a week, but if you don't sell anything that week, you are not getting paid. All right? So, we had to build a safety net of money that would allow me to take a risk to jump into real estate full time. And so my wife and I sat down and we said, okay, at what point can you stop teaching and switch over to real estate full time? And so what we decided was I would take 6 months of teacher's salary, which is $20,000, and if we could save $20,000, then I could quit teaching and then jump into real estate full time. So I'm sitting there with $11 in my bank account, and we're trying to figure out how to get $20,000. And so I took everything that I earned selling houses at the time. I got my real estate license. Took everything I earned selling real estate, and I just set it in a separate account. But going from 11 to 20,000, like I thought that would take years. But fortunately, real estate has been good for me, and within 4 months, turned in my resignation and no longer taught here at the academies. So the path to get into real estate is super simple. You don't need a college degree. All you need is a high school diploma, and then you can sign up and take real estate class. And you can get licensed literally, if you graduate in May, you could be licensed to sell real estate by June. As a matter of fact, there's a graduate last year, you guys may know her. Her name is Tegan Cox. She now works as a licensed real estate agent. She graduated, played volleyball here last year. And so, very simple to get into real estate. There's lots of opportunity. There's real estate agents in Jonesboro that make $500,000 to $600,000 a year. I'm not one of them, but I'm getting there, right? So the path to get into real estate is super simple. Not only do we help people buy or sell houses, but we also help small businesses. So as Amanda said, when she first started, she was in a shop that was 400 square feet. Just to give you some reference, that's about from me to the podium over there, a square box. And so that's the first place that they were in as a small business. Now, if you drive by Highland, you see this huge, big, nice, luxury-style building that they're in. And so a lot of times the perception of a business's of their success is the real estate that they're in. So they started out very small. Now they've got lots and lots of locations. And so one of the main things that people see is the real estate. So we help people, we help businesses find their next location. A lot of that is going to depend on how many cars drive by Highland. Well, their first stop on Flint Street, there's not just a ton of traffic there, but now they get hundreds of thousands of cars that drive by on a weekly basis to see their shop. so that's pretty much all I've got for you. If you guys have any questions about getting into real estate afterwards, stick around, ask questions.
Now we can see if you mess this mic up for everybody. No? All right, we're good. Yeah. Nothing like hearing a tax attorney speak first thing in the morning to get everybody excited. So, my name is Kurt Hawkins. I'm an attorney with Waddell Cole & Jones, downtown Jonesboro. I get to appreciate that revitalization of downtown that Gearhead really helped jumpstart every day. So we can't tell you how much we appreciate you guys for that. I'll start with sort of my path, and in doing that, talk about the education requirements, and then get into what it is I do to help small businesses. So I'm a graduate of JHS, like a lot of the folks that come up here. Graduated back in '02, which I'm just now thinking about was 20 years ago, which is unfortunate to have a sort of existential crisis about that right now. Yeah, okay. I attended Lyon College on a choir and theater scholarship where I became an English and music double major, and now I'm a tax lawyer because life makes perfect sense at all times. What happened there and how I was able to do that is that I had a decision point my senior year where I came to the conclusion that I wanted to come back to Jonesboro. I'm from here, my family's here, my support system's here. And what I planned on doing was being an English professor, where I would be much more subject to where the market took me. And so I thought about careers I could do as an English major. I figured I'm argumentative, I like logic puzzles, law seems to be a good idea. And the reason I was able to do that is because law school doesn't actually require a pre-track in college. It can be helpful to take some courses, business law courses, what have you, but you can go into law school from any major track. A lot of people think that's a poli-sci system. You go in, you take political courses, you go into law school. In reality, if you have any interest whatsoever in law, take some English classes first. Start as an English major. In my opinion, it's the #1 major to go into law school. Another great one is actually theater. If you are a theater major, particularly if you want to be a litigator, you can make an excellent lawyer. That prep, standing in front of people, learning how to project, knowing what to do with your hands, all good stuff when you're in a courtroom. So law school in terms of program years, it's a 3-year program for what's called JD, a Juris Doctorate, which is the degree for attorneys. I actually got a scholarship to go down to Miami, so I spent 3 years living in Miami Lakes, attending law school. And then I went on to specialize in New York at NYU and got a Master's of Law in Taxation. Now, that's not a requirement by any means. The vast majority of attorneys stop at the 3-year JD and go on from there to become very successful practitioners. I just knew that for me, I wanted to specialize in something very specific, and really more than anything, I wanted to let attorneys know coming in that that's what I planned to do with my life. And so I went on, got that degree, and it's allowed me to build the practice that I specifically wanted to have. Now, the reason I felt the need to do that is that law school doesn't have a subset of majors. Every attorney that comes out of law school comes out with a JD. What you do for practice has a lot to do with sort of the idea of apprenticeship. So you've heard a lot of the folks who come up and talk speak about the fact that a lot of what they learn is on the job. A lot of what people learn and where they take their business is something they learn while doing that work. The exact same for lawyers. It's important when you're at law school to find places to develop clerkships, to try to get jobs with attorneys, to see what sort of practice you might like to do. And then from there, with that idea in mind, to just seek out that work. See where you can find it, see if you can work with people who do that area of law. But it's very flexible. A lot of people go into law school thinking they're going to do one thing. For example, you may think you're going into law school to become a litigator like me, and then you find yourself gravitating towards real estate, tax courses, estate planning, and that's how I got where I am. So what does that mean for small businesses? There are really two types of attorneys. There are litigators, or what I call television attorneys. They are the attorneys that you typically see in films, on television shows, who prepare arguments with clients, take it in front of a judge or a jury, and try to outweigh the evidence from the other side. Then there's the type of attorney that I am, which is called a transactional attorney. And what that means is I stay as far away from the courtroom as possible at all times. I have never been in front of a jury. I have had one contested case in 12 years. Mostly what I do is talk to my clients, usually via cell phone when I'm trying to have dinner or trying to have lunch, and work with them to solve whatever problems they may have. And listen, the dinner lunch thing, don't feel bad for me. That's what I wanted to be going in, and that's how I've developed my practice. So there are 2 points during which I will see a client who has a small business. The first is before that business is actually in existence. So a new client will come to me and say, I want to do X. What does that look like? What form of business do I need? And I talk them through it, help counsel them on some of the options, and I put into play whatever they need to make that option happen. Usually that's filing the business with the state, putting together their organization structure, talking to them, their business partners to figure out, between all of them, what their agreements look like, and moving forward from there. The second point trails off into perpetuity, because the other thing that I do is serve as a continuing sounding board for any problem they may have that comes up. Whether that is issues with employees, wanting to bring in a new business partner, happily down the road, maybe wanting to transition family into the business. If the next generation comes along and they want to join in the business, I do a lot of that work as well. So, that's a pretty broad area. Unfortunately, it's very hard to narrow that in a little bit too, because I've heard everything from how to register an Argentinian crop duster to just day-to-day employee matters. You never quite know what's going to come through the door. Really the structure of how you want that practice to go is very flexible as well. I mentioned the cell phone. I try to tell every clerk that comes through my office, don't give clients your cell phone number. You really don't want to do that because you're going to get questions at all hours. And then, of course, I go and do it myself all the time because, 1, I'm a workaholic, and 2, I went into this wanting to be that point of contact for clients. Whenever something comes up, if they have a problem, I want to be the person that they think, well, we need to call Kurt and see if he can help us with this. In terms of the job market, law is kind of a strange beast because it's one of those things that isn't standardized across the country. Some job markets are flooded. Cities largely, big firm work, and even Little Rock, but in New York, Chicago, Miami, it's a tough market. It's also tougher around the state, sort of northwest Arkansas, other areas in central Arkansas. Now, if you want to come back to Jonesboro, the market's great. We've got a lot of attorneys who are wanting to be over in the Fayetteville area, and so there's lots of opportunities for attorneys who have roots here who decide they want to be back here. So I think that's it for me. If you've got any questions, I'll be around afterwards. Thanks very much.
Good morning. My name is Shelley Randall, and I work for the Jonesboro Regional Chamber of Commerce and Jonesboro Unlimited. So those are 2 different organizations, but they're located in the Chamber building on Nettleton. And I don't know how many of you know what a Chamber of Commerce does or is, but it is a membership organization and basically a business network in our town. Now, most towns have a Chamber of Commerce, and a Chamber of Commerce supports small business, they support large business, they advocate for business, they have different programs, and I'll tell you a little bit about some of them. But just about every community across the nation has a Chamber of Commerce. We also have a state Chamber of Commerce, and there's a United States Chamber of Commerce. So it's a big, big network, and but ours right here is local. And some of the things we do, like Amanda, when she and Ted were looking at expanding to other communities, why I'm sure they talked to some of their local organizations in those communities, talked about traffic counts, talked about real estate comps, talked about the talent in the workforce. All those things you can find out from a Chamber of Commerce. So you can look at the Chamber of Commerce as a resource for businesses. And so we'll have companies, or we'll have individuals from wherever. Could be New York, could be Oklahoma, could be wherever, and they're looking at Jonesboro to start a business. And so they'll call us, we'll help them with all of those things, give them a market overview, we'll sit down with them, we'll talk through it all, we'll give them suggestions of who they can get further help from in our area, and in general, we'll just help them become comfortable with the idea of starting a business in Jonesboro and make sure they're connected to all the right people. So then once someone does start a business here, what the Chamber does is we have networking opportunities, so people can come and visit with other professionals. And maybe you're in sales, or you have to sell your business, like Kurt has to have clients, Dustin has to have clients, so does Gabe at the bank, and Brock, John, we all have to have clients to make our businesses thrive, and so the Chamber can offer those centralized networking opportunities, and we also provide different types of seminars and workshops so that you can learn if you're a small business. Maybe there's only 2 of you, and you need to be on social media, but you don't know how to do that. We'll provide different types of workshops that teach you all these different things that can help make your business grow and be successful. So we also have 9 different standing committees, and these committees are made up of volunteers like Dustin and Gabe and all of these professionals, and they have a common interest. Maybe their interest is in helping a state be connected to the community. We have an A-State committee. Maybe they're interested in working with the schools and doing things like this. We have a workforce development committee. Maybe they're interested in helping businesses continue to become more green. We've got a green committee. So anyway, you get the idea. So anyway, a Chamber of Commerce is very, very, very important to a community and to individuals and to individual businesses. Our specific Chamber of Commerce, we have about 1,300 different businesses who are part of our organization. And we appreciate them every day, and they're what make our community thrive. So we also have the Business Expo. Many of you guys have probably come to that each year. It's very successful. Something else we do that we didn't expect to be doing is when COVID and the tornado hit our community at the same time, we reached out by phone to every single one of our members and some who were not members, just to make sure they were connected to the right resources so they could recover, or they could learn what other businesses in their industries were doing with regard to COVID protocols and that kind of thing. So anyway, that's a little bit about what the Chamber of Commerce does. And we have leadership programs, and we provide these services, and we also do economic development. Economic development is simply making sure that there are lots of good, great paying jobs in Jonesboro so that we all have a great quality of life. So anyway, the Chamber, as far as what type of education you need to have, you know, you can get pretty specialized. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I I decided I knew I wanted to go to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I started out in fashion marketing. Thought I was going to move to LA and be some great person there. Realized pretty quickly that wasn't going to be for me. I grew up in Kansas, and then I changed to horticulture science. Decided I wanted to own greenhouses. I decided that wasn't right either. And then I ended up with a degree in journalism and science. And along the way, I got married, and my husband and I, we had a little bit of schooling left. I went to Kansas State University, and then he decided we decided when we graduated to move to California, and he went to work as an agronomist, which was his degree, for the largest cotton corporation in the world. After a year, he knew that wasn't right. We moved back to Kansas, knew that wasn't right. And he followed his dream of being in the Marine Corps. So when you are married to someone who wants to be a Marine Corps officer, if you want to stay married, you go along for the ride. And I thought he was nuts, but it was the greatest 10 years of our lives. And we have lived all over the country. We have had amazing experiences and have wonderful, wonderful friends spread across the country. But because of that, because of his career, I had to reinvent myself everywhere we went. And so I've worked at an insurance agency. I have worked for an investment banker. I have worked in DC, in Crystal City for the Naval Sea Systems Command. I've worked for a defense contractor. All these different things, and I thought, what in the world? What am I doing with my career? And when we moved here to Jonesboro, I figured out all those things kind of came together and made sense to be in this job where I am now, because I have a better understanding of lots of different kinds of businesses, because I've worked in lots of different kinds of businesses. It's been a great ride, and I'm noticing there's kind of a common thread through all of what we've said. It took us all just a bit to figure out what we wanted to do, and then go out and do that and be the best at that you can be. I think, Gabe, it kind of sounds like you figured yours out quicker than maybe some of the rest of us. But just keep in mind that you don't have to know exactly what you want to do, but education is important regardless of what education looks like, whether it's a 40-year degree, a technical certificate that you can get in a couple of months. Whatever that looks like, go do it, get that education, and work hard. Be the best. Be the best you can be. Work so hard so it's clear that you have the confidence, like what John talked about, that you can do anything you want to be, anywhere. You just have to work at it. So, anyway, since I've been here, I've gotten a couple of certifications that have assisted me with my job. The chamber world is a little bit specialized, but you don't necessarily have to have previous chamber experience. It kind of depends on what position you're looking for in the chamber. We recently hired a marketing director. She has a lot of marketing experience, and she's finishing her master's degree. So she's very specialized. We have others actually in the chamber who have journalism degrees like I do. So anyway, point is, think about how you're going to get that education, what it's going to look like, do it, and then just keep working hard for your whole career, and be kind. Anyway, thank you so much. I'll be here and look forward to talking with you more.
Thank you to all of our presenters. It dawned on me just a few minutes ago, we're going to leave in just a second, guys. So please have a seat. I have a connection to this story, and I'm not even sure Amanda knows this. My wife and I were a small business owner in Jonesboro. We had a coffee shop for 5 years, classic cup coffee over by the skating rink. And I had a connection to that building, and my wife and I went down to that building and walked around inside of it for about an hour, trying to figure out how we could make the plumbing work to do a coffee shop. And we finally decided that was going to be too hard. So we went a different direction, and several years later had some life changes, parents, health problems and things, and having kids, and we sold that shop. I remember a small business that we made $11, not made, we brought in $11 our first day. We probably actually lost money. It probably took more than $11 to make that day happen, but that's what our register said at the end of the day. And a few weeks later, I walked in, and everybody was really excited. I said, what's going on? And they said, we made $100. And several months later, I walked in when it was my time to work, and the winter had started, it was cold, and Christmas was coming, and we were selling, and they said, we're at $1,000. And that happened over the course of a lot of hard work and a lot of time, but I had totally forgotten that we took a shot, or at least a thought, at going into that very building that you guys are in, and we were going to do the live upstairs thing too. So I'm kind of envious that you got to live the loft lifestyle a little bit. I also want to say something about what all of our presenters have said this morning about money coming in and money going out, and how important that is. That is important for your household too. I want to tell you real quick, and then we'll have some questions for our panel. My wife and I, in 1990, I don't know, we'll say 7, we were in Monroe, Louisiana. You guys were about negative 10 years old then. And we bought a set of bedroom furniture, and we walked in, and the guy said, this is 1 year, same as cash. In other words, you can take this home today, and we're going to act like you paid for it. And we're going to act like you paid for it for a year. And for young buyers, that sounds awesome. But this kind man, he was really good to us. He was not doing financing. A finance company was. He sat us down and he said, let me tell you something. And he was mean about it because he did not want us to make this mistake. He said, don't you dare miss that last payment. He said, it's a year from now. He said, you need to be done paying for this 2 weeks before today next year. Because he said, once they do begin to charge interest, they don't charge you interest. They charge you interest. So that bedroom suit, which we still have, by the way, would have gone from whatever it cost to probably, by the time we paid it off, somebody mentioned a while ago, 5,000 turning into 10,000. That probably would have happened to us. That purchase would have doubled, and we would have been under tremendous debt trying to get out from under that. You know, another example that might, you're going to, as I said, you're going to get credit card offers. You're going to be in your dorm room, and you're going to say, man, this TV that we have in this dorm room is puny. It's terrible. Why don't we go down to wherever and use this credit card that I got in my mailbox at school today, and let's go buy it. The average life of a TV is about 4 years. So it is entirely possible, as I shared with some students several years ago, that you could still be making payments on a television that is at the landfill. So you don't want to be in that position. So again, handling your money, and then the last thing I'll say, I would challenge you, if you think you want to be in business, hop on Craigslist and buy you a push mower and see if you can get 10 yards this summer to be your yards and start a business. Opportunities are out there, and you can't notice them if you're walking through life with your head down. So, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. All of these folks up here can tell you of sacrifices they made. Mr. White, sacrifices he made to go from $11 to $20,000. There are things I am certain that his family did without, that a lot of us consider to be needs. And then when you really step back, you're like, I don't need the greatest phone, I just need a phone. Those types of things are how you get ahead in business and how you get to expand possibly before your time. So Again, I want to thank our presenters. Let's go ahead and give them a hand for coming out today. And the last thing we are going to do, I'm going to ask them to kind of gather here around. And if there is one of those particular professions, or if they said something that made you think about your future, go ahead and come up and ask them a question, okay? And we are now in, if you have no questions, and I'm not rushing you to class, but if you're going to stand here, you need to have a legit question. We're in second period now, third block, third period. It's a weird thing. We have a weird numbering system for classes. But also, if you missed breakfast for being in here, breakfast is set up in the pickup area there by the windows and the commons. Please grab and go. Take that and head on to your next block class. Thank you.